Lapse the steering wheel here. Give me the steering wheel. Hey, steering wheel. Somebody tell him to give it to him. Come on. Whoa.
Your leg, my please. Your leg.
How the f*** is this possible?
I'm driving like a grandma. Get that, Ralph? Did you hear me? From our radio. The rest of the race. Ralph, acknowledge. Now, come on, close him down and kill him. We've got a lunatic on the track down the hang straight.
I am so annoyed.
Hello and welcome inside the Par for Paper podcast number 916, the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix review. This is Todd.
No, Todd, not now.
AKA Negative Keeper. You know what we do on race weekends.
We watch one, then we talk about it. Then we watch one, then we talk about it. Come on, Todd.
That's exactly what we do on race weekends. And this weekend, it's the final race of the season, race number 24. So I have to bring in my co-host. You know him.
Wrecked from out of the wasteland. He's bad, he's beautiful, he's crazy. It's
Hello, everybody. This is Paul Charles, the International.
It's the International.
Yes.
Paul, I can't help but notice.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening. I can't help but notice for this final Grand Prix, after 24 gut-wrenching, butt-pounding races that we've made it through, I can't help but notice that it seems like you might have cut your hair a little bit.
Yes. I've cut my hair a little bit. That is correct. Yes.
You're getting close to that Lando do.
I'm going to be, presentable,
Yeah.
pretty soon. A big shake up, at our team. I've got to raise my level a little bit. I can't be that shaggy haired guy I used to be.
Right. When you're running Valkyries at Le Mans, you got to pick it up a notch.
Yeah. But I kind of like being like that too, because Ian's never told me to cut my hair, so I just did it on my own. My dad told me to cut my hair, but not Ian. Yeah. So
Well,
I was gonna wear my McLaren shirt from
Nice.
my past, but I thought maybe that probably wasn't the right thing to do. So
Maybe.
yeah, so I'm going neutral today.
That's
but,
good.
But obviously, I did a lot of work for McLaren in the past, and so I'm very happy for them of what they've achieved for sure.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. You did a lot of work with McLaren, didn't you?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I have pictures of you driving around in, what was it, the 720s and
720s, 570s, the GT4 cars, all that kind of stuff. Had a lot of time behind the wheels of those things. Actually, that was basically what I did before I transitioned to the Harder Racing Aston Martin team. So
that's right.
Yeah, good times.
And when I say you were at the wheel of 720, you were driving the 720 in anger.
Very, very. I was very angry most of the time.
Very angry.
That 720 is something.
Yeah, you said it was hooked up.
Man. Yeah. It's one of those cars that tries to kill you, so it's fun to drive,
Yeah.
Yeah, the nannies, its power and performance overpower the nannies that are in the car, so you got to pay attention. Like the old R8 did, the V10.
Yeah. But you like the 455s better.
No, I wouldn't say so. But I say the 455s of a very elegant machine, I would say. Yeah, they're all good,
They're all good.
They're all good, right?
Category,
Yeah. There's no Chevy Aveos out there, It's they're all good in their own way. Yeah.
It's not like a Vauxhall Estate
No, it's not like that at all.
or a shooting brake. Is that what
So they've all got their strong points for sure.
Yeah, right.
It just depends what kind of driver you like. Do you drive,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the last race of the Grand Prix season, the 2024 season, it's exciting. Ends in Abu Dhabi. Man, did Sky they made a meal out of their Yabba Dabba Doo Abu Dhabi thing all weekend. Good grief.
Yeah, well, so I told you that I finally found a way to watch the ESPN feed.
You did.
I don't know how you do it. I was like, and I don't know if I did something to make it break, but as soon as the race started, the feed went bad or something at my house anyway. So I had to go back to the F1 TV one. But the pre-race with Danica, and you had Brundle there, and that was
Nico.
That was nearly the worst thing I saw all weekend.
Yeah,
at least heard.
they're occasionally there. Then
Yeah, I can't say as I enjoyed the pre-race, and I thought I was missing something, and now I don't feel so bad.
I don't know. To be honest with you, I don't know that this pre-race was as good as the
normal.
the
Okay,
races. Yeah.
Okay, so maybe it just seemed a lot of fluff and absolutely no content whatsoever.
Yeah, I think they were kind of like, to be fair to them, they're dog-eared, man. It's 24 races. We're done, man.
Yeah.
I get it.
They should have brought Valseshi in, just to be so over excited and exuberant.
Oh, c'est so poor. You had such a great watching experience. Don't get to it. Yes. It was so good. Boy, I miss Davide. So big Grand Prix Abu Dhabi, it was all to play for in Abu Dhabi. And look, the track's improvements have led to more overtaking, more passing, and not always in the DRS zone. So that's all good. For me, I was walking into this race really looking at two constructors' titles, right? It was really between McLaren and Ferrari and between Haas and Alpine. That's what I was focused on. Yeah. I thought and to be real honest, I kind of had a hunch how the championship would go. I was really focused on Pierre and Nico.
Right,
because that was the race. That was the big money there. The delta between 6th and 8th was $30 million. So it is all to play for there. I do like the track more now than it was, now that they removed those silly chicanes. But if I'm honest, I think there's a lot more that could be done, but the harbor itself may just be too difficult to work around or make any big changes to that track anyway. It's a shame because, if you were asking me which on your wish list, I would like to see the final race of the season at one of the most wickedly challenging tracks.
Yeah.
And I just don't feel like Abu Dhabi's it.
No. But then the most challenging tracks sometimes cause kind of processional racing, right? Difficult to pass, hungering things, so it does at least allow them to race, even though they had to, play the little DRS game there a little bit. But I thought it's decent. As I said, you could always improve the track, but there's still a couple of chicanes in there I could do without. But
probably ought to take a couple of those bollards out too.
Yeah, definitely. They need to rethink the bollard. Yeah, reimagine the bollard as something not a bollard that pops up into the track.
Right. Yeah, I don't know if it was Martin or JB said, this is Formula One. They don't need bollards.
Yeah.
That's for like sports cars and that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Have virtual bollards, holograms.
Yeah, there you go. Mm-hmm. Hologram. That'd be good for them. Big race. It was all to play for as we had in the Constructors' Championship. To be fair, I think it was a tall order for Ferrari to overhaul McLaren. I think 21-point lead was always going to be difficult. And we'll get into that when we start reviewing the teams. I think that was going to be difficult. I think also that's why I think that sixth place was also important. It probably would have required both Haas's to be up in the points. But anyway, still a great battle.
Yeah,
there's some good battles on track, some attrition, some F-bombs on the radio. And we walked into this weekend.
And deep disappointment.
Yeah. and quiet desperation.
Yes.
And I'm looking at you, Valtteri. So, yes. And he's gotten kind of candid after the season's over. He's like, yeah, looking back, if I could go back 3 years, I wouldn't have went there.
Like, no shit headlines there. Yeah,
no kidding. And he's like, oh, yeah, I was promised I was going to be a pillar of the new Audi program. And I was kind of like, well, that probably left when Andreas Seidel left.
Yeah.
That concept. So anyway, yes. So let's talk about the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix.
Let's do it.
All right, we'll start at the very top, at the sharp end of the grid, because we're going to start off with Grace's team, McLaren, Lando Norris, P1, Oscar Piastri, and P10. It's been 26 years since McLaren won the Constructors' title, and if you really think about it, this is just my personal opinion, but if you really think about the whole journey that McLaren's been on, it really all starts at that Ferrari Spygate incident where it all fell apart. They were fined $100 million. That led to sort of no confidence, boardroom political battles between Ron Dennis and the investors from the Middle East and trying to oust him. And then he moved to the road car and then back. And Martin Whitmarsh was like a ping pong ball in there, with his own agenda. And then they got, fired, and they had the poachings, and everybody was, running scared, and they lost a lot of their brain trust. And, just that really, it's taken them from that point to come all the way back to where they are. They had all the rotating drivers, it's like a rotating door of drivers that were in and out. And then finally, they bring in Zach Brown, and he and all the minimum Woking, the effort they've all put in, have secured the 2024 Constructor Championship in Abu Dhabi, and a fantastic job by this team. If you consider not just where they were 18 months ago, but for the last 26 years, what they've had to climb through.
Yeah, I mean, it's quite a legacy they've had, right? That they tried to live up to, and it made them a bit of a laughing stock sometimes because they were laughable. I mean, they couldn't get out of their own way. They were struggling. And Zach's been on board, and he's had his up and downs too. It hasn't all been just a straight trajectory up. It wasn't that long ago. They're at the back of the grid in the beginning of the season. So
the Honda. Yeah.
So you turn that around, and obviously key appointments at the team for design, running the team, execution, but it also shows you the driver pairings, how powerful that is. And Red Bull know how powerful it can be against them, not having that. And I know a lot of people didn't like what Zach did trying to get Piastri on his team. You could go back, he said, she said there, but the thing is Zach secured Piastri for the betterment of the team, and that those two drivers together, built the championship with the backup, obviously, of a fast car. You got to have a good car, but they did manage to work together enough that they secured the points and got all the points when they were available to them.
Yeah, that's exactly right. If you wondered what did Red Bull need to do, they needed to do that, and Sergio just didn't deliver.
Yeah. I mean, they needed to do it a long time ago, and they just were too shy or whatever. Very Red Bull like. To hold on to somebody, but as you've mentioned before, there may be some underlying commercial reasons why that wasn't as easy as we think it could be.
I have to think that was part of it. Lando led from pole position. Paul managed his tires really well, managed the race, did exactly what he needed to do to bring home the title. And that's good, because the jump scare in this race was Oscar getting punted by Max on the first lap. Yeah. And then he himself ran into the back of Colapinto, got a 10-second penalty. Oscar, that left a lot on the shoulders of Lando, who was getting hunted down by a brace of Ferrari, right? And that was, and just I mean, all for the error of one little small reliability piece. It could have flipped the other way. I mean, that's what I was thinking before the race. Everyone was going, it's a foregone conclusion. I'm like, now, wait a minute. If everyone wants to remember Toyota at Le Mans on the last lap, you got to get to the finish. And that's not guaranteed, no matter, even in this world of Formula One where reliability is so much better than it used to be. Anything could have gone wrong. And as I said, it could have flipped on its lid, but the reliability of the car, Lando had the race under control for sure. Yep. But you just don't know what external influences can hinder your progress and your success. Yeah, team executed a 2-second stop when he did stop, which is perfect because he came out. He was only, a second and a half ahead of Carlos when he came out. So, then he put a distance between them and just did an amazing job, a fantastic job by Lando. He knew what he had to do, had a tremendous amount of pressure on his shoulders, handled that with poise, and brought home the win and the Constructors' Championship. It's a great win, most deserving team. So hats off to all the men and women of Woking. What a terrific season this has been for them. Oscar, unfortunately, Paul, tough race for him, got punted by Max at the beginning. After the race, he said Max immediately came over to apologize, held his hand up, said, look, it was bummer. And he goes, I looked in the mirror as I was going in the corner. I thought I was safe, but, then he was there. And Max had said, he saw that opening, dove down because he was focused on the two leaders. And once he realized Oscar was right there and he tried to back out of it and couldn't, and led to that. And then Oscar said, so Max got the penalty, but he goes, then I went and did it to myself, with Carl Bento. So he said, it's whatever. He wasn't too torn up about it.
Yeah, it's well, not torn up about it. They won the championship, right? So and he wasn't going to beat Lando to it. So he didn't have, it all worked out in the end. I mean, there was nothing Piastri did wrong in that situation, but Max obviously, he just didn't arrest his speed enough to be able to take a tighter radius on the exit, which is what was necessary to avoid contact and, penalty deserved, obviously. Yeah. And, pretty careless by Max at that point, but maybe he didn't care less. I don't know,
Yeah. What's he got to lose?
Yeah.
All right. So, Max is such a bully. I'm sure George is in back going, what? Let's talk about Ferrari, my team. Let's see. Charles Leclerc P3, Carlos Sainz P2. Carlos avoided the Piastri Verstappen incident, jumping up into P2, ran a good race, but just didn't have the pace for the McLaren, saying that the Papaya team was a tenth and a half quicker than them all weekend. And that was the stark reality. Still, a good result for Carlos to finish his career with Ferrari. In my mind, I mean, finishing P2, he can hold his head up because, to be honest, he found out a long time ago he was being dropped.
Right.
And still care and fight as hard as he did all season long and in Abu Dhabi to bring home P2 is not only a testament to his racecraft, and he's a good driver, but just who he is as a person. He could have phoned it in a long time ago.
Yeah, but I mean, you're not built to phone it in unless, you don't care that much about the sport so much. So, I mean, and Carlos is obviously very passionate and he's got a lot of talent, and it's a difficult situation that he's losing the place to Hamilton, because I'm sure Ferrari are wondering if they're still doing the right thing, because Sainz, does a great job out there, and they've worked together fantastically well, I think, developing the car and getting it going. So, yeah, absolutely great for both Ferraris to be on the podium there. It was, They gave it all they could, and you can't say they didn't. So
they did.
Yeah,
they really tried hard. And Charles, my gosh, what a fantastic race! Going from 19th to 3rd in the race. Charles said that even though it was an incredible race, he was sad that they fell short of winning the title. He'd like to have won the title with Carlos. But you have to hand it to both of them. They were making a serious run at Lando, doing everything they could. I mean, Lando was just too quick, but my gosh, coming all the way back to bring it home, Ferrari 1-2 and P2, P3, all they needed was a little bit of mechanical issue or a bobble from Lando, something to get them both around. And that's one of those cases, we've talked about it a million times, but, they did everything they could to put themselves in a position to win it. Had anything happen with Lando, they just didn't have the pace for Lando, but had anything happen, boom, both Ferraris would have,
and that, obviously Leclerc was in a very bad situation at the beginning of the race and made an awesome first lap. I mean, obviously made up a lot of places. Some of it, was by people spinning off here or there, cleared it, but he made a great outside pass in the hairpin down there at the far end of the track. But also the passes he was making throughout the race, honestly, fighting hard. He definitely was. This is one of the best. This is how, if Charles drives like this every week, then he should be in the hunt for the championship next year. Sure. I think it's going to be tighter than this year, honestly, with more people actually vying for it. Yeah. And that's exactly how he needs to drive and what he's fully capable of.
Right. Yeah, I totally agree. Let's see. Mercedes, Lewis Hamilton P4, George Russell P5. George had a decent race, struggled to get around Gasly early on. I don't know if that ultimately, impeded him, or if that's just kind of the pace that he had, some patience. and a long first stint allowed him to get back around Pierre, but he couldn't hold off Lewis, who was on fresher tires, and he got jumped by Leclerc too to come home in P5. At least he stayed ahead of Max, so he had that going.
Yeah. I mean, it was interesting. I mean, kudos to Gasly for holding him off for so long. Yeah. And for that team to have a car that was actually be able to, for Gasly to fight, but Gasly did a fantastic job managing his car, managing when to release the power out of the battery power, etc. To everything Russell was trying, and it did take a lot of sheen off of Russell's, stint on the tire to have to fight that hard with Gasly, and I definitely didn't think it was detriment to the end of his race as well because of it.
Yeah. Agreed. And then on Lewis's side, he was only a driver to start on hard compounds, and he had a long first stint, which meant he boxed later than anyone else. This gave him very fresh tires at the end of the race to run down the top four, or up to P4, taking P4 from George at the end. Very nice recovery drive from Lewis as he said his goodbyes to the team after a long and amazing career at Mercedes. And I'm all for that. I think it was great saying all the goodbyes and the pictures and the congratulations. This is a storied relationship, but I got to be honest with you, the way the media was covering it was like he was retiring from it. No, he's going to be wearing red next year. He's going to be on the grid. It's not like this is goodbye. Yeah. I mean, yes, he's leaving Mercedes, and we should think back and reflect and celebrate that era together for sure. But we shouldn't act like he's like retiring and we're putting him out to pasture.
No, for sure. But it was like everyone's trying to do the Barbara Walters, try and get Lewis to cry interview questions, And kudos to Lewis, actually. I mean, I've kind of criticized him for not being a bit real, maybe a bit fake sometimes, maybe a bit manipulating, but he was definitely the man he really is behind the helmet, and the way he answered the questions I thought was great, but it must have got pretty tiring at the end with him. So how's that make you feel, Lewis? What kind of emotions is going on? It's like, okay.
Right. Just enough.
Yeah.
That time your dad got angry at you. How did it make you feel?
Well, does it make you? Yeah.
Tell me about your mother. Okay. Yes. He handled it real well, though.
He did. He was very real, and it was good to see, I think.
Oh, he didn't take the bait very much, and even when they were asking him silly questions about it, he took the high road, handled it very professional, I thought.
Yeah.
Great job on him. So next,
and a great race to end. I mean, I know he didn't win, but I mean, it was a fantastic drive. Yeah, the strategy, that they didn't have anything to lose by running that strategy, but it really did work out, and he executed it as well. So it was great
recovery drive for sure. Mm-hmm. Let's see, Red Bull, Sergio Perez, a DNF. That'll come as some surprise. And Max Verstappen down to P6. Verstappen, sorry. I get everybody mad when I say stopping, not stapping, sorry. Max tried to go for a gap. And, well, you have to, right? I know. So he was trying to go for the gap.
And if you no longer go for a gap that exists, you're no longer a racing driver.
Mm-hmm.
I'm surprised you say that, Stuart.
Good times.
Good times.
By the way, did you see Jackie Stewart by the DJ booth?
I did.
He looked like
spinning.
What the hell happened to my sport?
Sorry, your name's William? No, Will I am. What?
Well, nice to meet you, William.
Yeah.
What team are you with?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Did you spend some time at Diddy's pool house? No.
Ouch.
I think maybe I'm surprised they haven't got Christian Horner pegged as hanging out in the pool.
Oh man! Oh, don't even go there.
Oh my god!
But yeah. Jackie Stewart's like, have you ever thought about growing your sideburns really bushy? It's a good look.
It is a good look. I think Will I Am could pull it off.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah,
I think he could. Will's the thing I love about Will is he's an F1 fan.
Yeah,
and he's been in a lot of races. I haven't seen him DJing like he was.
Right.
And, master of ceremonies there, so to speak, for lack of a better term. But he's generally been at a lot of races. Martin's interviewed him several times, and I love it that he's a F1 fan.
Yeah. Did you see the Brad Pitt interview? Another one of the gems I caught as I finally started watching ESPN feed.
With Ted?
Yeah, that was kind of awkward, actually.
Yeah.
Ted was a bit awkward.
Ted is such a unique personality that he's such an eclectic, in his own sort of world. That's why his notebooks work. But when he gets people, he has this really eclectic, unique way of interacting.
Yeah.
The questions that Brad, I'm sure, was assuming would be asked are never going to come out of Ted's mouth. Ted's going to ask him things that are going to totally throw him off the game. And sometimes it works great, and other times it's just awkward.
Yeah. Well, Brad seemed fairly, he's 60 years old, though. That's pretty crazy.
I know. Yeah, he looks fantastic for being 60. Yeah, who knew?
Yep, who knew? But yeah, it was. He seemed generally enthusiastic.
Old.
Yeah, he seemed genuinely enthusiastic about what he's doing and the sport and everything like that. Yeah. So that was nice to see.
He's a convert for sure.
Yeah, although I'm still very questionable about how good that movie is going to be. Yeah. As he said, the most authentic racing movie ever. But
I'll be the judge of that.
Yeah.
And the other thing is, so he's a Missouri boy like I am. He's from Missouri. So there you go. All right.
Got that going for you.
Did we talk about Max? Yes.
Yeah, well, we kind of. You just talked about the gap.
We're talking about the gap. Did I mention I was a Prost fan?
Yes, many times.
Because every time I play that clip, you're like, something's not right. Which is what Stewart was trying to politely tell him. Not so much, Ayrton. So anyway, yes. Max. Ham-fisted move down the inside, had not to lose. He was a Hail Mary, went for it, but he did raise his hand, went and apologized to Oscar. He knew
Which is good. Yeah,
it was good.
Yeah.
Came home in P6. But let's talk about, more crucially, your friend and mine, Sergio Perez, the race pretty much summed up his 2024 season, if I'm honest.
Yes.
He got punted by Bottas, who didn't get hit by Bottas. And then he parked up his car on the side of the track, which seemingly like a gearbox issue. I don't know if he burnt the clutch out or what all happened there, Paul.
Yeah, I mean, that's what he did the other day when he spun also. As I said texted you and Grace, I was like, I bet as soon as that car stopped on track, they changed the locks at Red Bull and changed all the sign directions to others so he wouldn't come back.
Right.
Because stick a fork in him.
His father in the room.
Yeah, I mean it's disappointing, as you say. It's literally it's gone from bad to worse.
It is.
Red Bull made the mistake of trying to hang on too long, but that you just got to find a way of staying out of trouble, Sergio. I mean, I get the Bottas thing, and it was tight, and it was jostling around, but it all comes to do with how you qualify. You stay out of trouble if you qualify fast, and he can't do that.
Right.
So
right. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of talk, and he's saying, I got a contract. I don't think there's a snowball's chance of in that car next year.
No.
We'll see.
And
the big news this weekend, which I think was also equally great, is Alpine, Pierre Gasly in P7, Jack Doohan in P15. Pierre had a lot of pressure on him, Paul, to consolidate that P6 in the Constructors' Championship. So he delivered on Saturday with a good qualifying, then backed that up, converted that into a terrific P7, was running in P3 there a little bit, P4 or something like that.
Yep.
Then finished down in P7, a terrific run just ahead of Nico Hülkenberg, kept the Hulk behind him the whole race. Which if you're doing the math, if you go back, his podium in Brazil, which launched him into P6, was a $50 million payday for that team.
Oof.
That is
and they need
huge. And they desperately need it.
Ryan Reynolds can take his cut now.
That's right. So
is
that'll
very
all
important.
go to Wrexham now.
That's going to go to Wrexham. That means Wrexham are going to the Premiership pretty soon with all that money they
going to
can
be
spend.
in there with West Ham.
Oh, that's a touchy subject.
That is, with the crash of the Ferrari. And,
Yeah, in my hometown too.
Yeah, in Kent?
Yeah, no, in Epping, in Essex.
Essex, oh, yeah.
Always wanted to live in Kent, but it's it's a closed shop. You can't get in there. It's like the Iron Curtain of Kent. Yeah, they just don't let you in if you weren't originally there. So
Right, you got to be invited.
yeah,
You were down there hanging out with all the girls in Essex.
that's right.
Yeah, I know. I know how you are. Yeah, great run for Pierre. I don't want to overplay this, but I am excited about what Ollie's been able to do, and now with Flavio coming in, and you think they had all that with the other team boss, and then
Lots of turmoil, massive amounts of turmoil,
turmoil over there, and then they got the other guy in, they got rid of him, and the people leave. It just, I felt really bad for that team and what they're going through, and you wonder, gosh, can they ever turn around? Well, they really kind of have. This team, the car's more competitive now. Pierre has carried that team on his shoulders, done a fantastic job delivering points. That's a $50 million payday for this team. And that, as you know, Paul, is massive to a team like that.
Yeah. I mean, it was a great job by Gasly. He had the weight of the team on his shoulders for sure, but he's done an incredible job. I really think, throughout the season, and Ocon, kept him honest for sure. But yeah, it just shows you obviously the turnaround, and it was a clearing house nearly from Alpine. It was like, what are they doing? But just like Haas, a couple of key position changes can really change how a team approaches things, and enabled the Alpine team to turn around a car which was the slowest car on the grid at the beginning of the season to fighting, and he was in third place at some point when he was fighting off Russell. So great job. Now, as I said, the weight was on his shoulders because he wasn't going to get a lot of backup from Doohan, and obviously they felt Ocon was going to be more of a negative, even though he's obviously got experience in the car and could, back up Gasly and finish position, but then he's going to the team they were trying to beat, and obviously the relationship turned very, very sour there at the end, and thought that negative draw was too much for them to want to even deal with in this last race, and so they brought Doohan in, who, I don't, he's more of a Palmer than he is a Verstappen. I think Doohan. I don't think he's gonna, be the next wonder kid. He did okay, but I'm not expecting massive things from him next year. So I think this pressure or the team leader position for Gasly is very much going to be his next year as well.
Yeah, I think so too. I think, it's a big, very much like I said about the men and women and Woking, all the men and women at Alpine have done a fantastic job. And certainly for those that have hung in there through all the tumult, I think it's been good to see this for them. So very happy for them. Haas F1, Nico Hulkenberg, PA, Kevin Magnussen, P16. As happy as I am for Alpine, I'm sad for Haas because they missed out on P6, and both cars were running in the points early on, but the two-stopper for Kevin dropped him down the order, and then he got punted by Bottas, who didn't. And that didn't help matters. So Kevin did manage the fastest lap as a fond farewell to F1. And if I'm honest, I'm going to hate to see Kevin go, but finishing down P16, not in the points, wasn't a huge help other than, nabbing that fast lap. And I hope he could have done better. And I think he would have if Bottas hadn't punted him.
Yeah. I mean, that fast lap thing, they're doing away with it next year, right? Yeah. So I think that's kind of fun. I mean, for them, it was probably a strategy and a good send-off for Kevin to get the fastest lap, but also it stops the Alpine team for trying to do something like that themselves. So, but yeah, it is a little sad for Haas because they've been down in the doldrums for so long until they got rid of Gunther, and have progressively got better and better and had a car that could fight week in, week out, not just a one-trick pony kind of vehicle. So, and the drivers, Magnussen and Hülkenberg, were the right guys to do it, really.
Yeah, they were.
I know it's all changed there next year, which is going to be a bit of a struggle for them, I think, because I think they're really going to miss how these guys work together, how they fight from lap one to the end of the race, and this a lot of experience that they bring to the team also. Once the structure was changed to enhance and use them as good they can. So I think it was a great partnership throughout the years with these two. But Haas, hopefully they can keep the car competitive because the driver lineup change is going to be something.
It'd be difficult with Ocon and Ollie Behrman.
I think it's always difficult with Ocon. So, yeah.
Right. So that's going to be a little tough.
It is.
Yeah. Let's see. Aston Martin, Lance Stroll, P14, Fernando Alonso, P9. Fernando had a good start running in 6th early on, but didn't have the pace to keep the quicker cars behind him as they came back through the field. The team used a 2-stopper strategy for him to get on fresh tires, allowing him to get back past Yuki and Alex for end of the points. So another really good strategy call from Fernando, got him back up into P9, whereas it wasn't looking so good early on, but a decent strategy.
Yeah, no, it's good strategy. I mean, they did it in the last race too, right? They gave him fresh tires with those mediums at the last race, and it worked out. And Alonso's the guy who will fight, give him some clean tires. He'll go put it down, and he did it. He's really maximizing that car. Unfortunately, the car isn't great, but they've found a way to give Alonso at least a couple of tools to be able to fight with, and he's done a great job to squeeze out a few extra points. They weren't really under threat, but you've got to always keep pushing no matter what.
Yeah, and a guy who isn't delivering more out of that car is Lance.
Yeah,
he had a time penalty for exceeding track limits too many times.
Maybe he was trying to escape. He was trying to find his way. Trying to find his way out of the track early.
I think he was trying to find the gravel trap so he could try to.
Yeah. My dad is going to be so mad.
My dad's going to be so mad.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Not great.
Changes there. I have no words. All right, moving on, shall we? Let's get down to Williams. That's always fun. You got Alex Albon at P11, Franco Colapinto DNF. Franco got hit by Piastri, which ended his race, which was unfortunate. I saw all the outrage about Max hitting Piastri, but I didn't see any outrage about Piastri running in the back of Colapinto and ending his race. So, but Oscar said, I was dumb and said it was his fault, and obviously he did. But on the other side of the garage, Alex looked like he might nip some points out, but couldn't hold off Alonso or Piastri, and he came home in P11. Alex said that when the track cooled, Paul, he could not get temps in the tires, and it felt like 25 quali laps from that point on.
Wow, yeah. I mean, it was interesting how the temperature and the change in compounds, you could see a swing from one team to the next, et cetera, et cetera. So, it didn't work out for Williams. A little too quiet on the tire, I guess. Lower downforce kind of settings. Colapinto, I mean, he got the option, he got the opportunity, should we say, and I think he did a pretty good job. But it's kind of ended on a fairly slow slide down to reality, I think, for him in the races.
Yeah. Time is over. Sorry. Thank you, sir. Thank you for playing. Should we talk about RB? Why? Love that radio from you. Stay out. Why? Why are we staying out? He didn't like it. He had Liam Lawson, DNF, Yuki Tsunoda up in P12. Liam had a tough race, a wheel not secured promptly, prompting a second stop and a harsh 10-second stop and go penalty, but he ultimately parked the car in the penultimate lap with an issue as he got out. The car seemed to want to go park itself.
It's that self-parking mode that they're bringing into Formula One.
Brake right down here. You just pull that up right there. Or if it's old, it's down here in your left foot. So that was kind of funny. Yuki, meanwhile, is destroying his teammates. He had a tough start. Boy, did you see that anti-stall kick?
Yeah, that was pretty brutal. Brutal start. Yeah.
He's like, I don't know what's going on, but it wasn't my fault.
Well, not my fault.
Not my fault.
It's never Yuki's fault.
This damn piece of crap car.
It's either your fault or your fault.
Right. That anti-stall kicked in, and he was having to hit, pulling the clutch and try to get it going, try to get to bite. Yeah, it was tough. Once he did get going, though, the team kept him out for a long stint, and they said to him, "Be out." And that's what he said. He did not like that. Happy. No, he was not. Apart from that, though, if Yuki was trying to make a strong case, that he should be in Sergio's seat. At least to be honest, he's been out qualifying Liam and has better race results. So there you go. But my hunch is that Yuki taking Sergio's seat has a lot more to do about a lot of other factors other than whether he's quicker than his teammate or not.
Yeah, and you got to look at the experience levels, and I think Yuki's doing okay, but he's been given 4 years. 3 years. Yeah. So, if that's the level he's at now, and Lawson just came in for the last handful of races, and I think he's more than a match for Tsunoda at this point. You can say qualifying and race and results and change, but it's not a big enough body of work to really judge the two of them against each other, really, I don't think.
Right.
But definitely more upside on Lawson, I believe.
And the breaking news, this just in. Apparently, they're going to ditch all the goofy names and go to Racing Bulls next year.
Okay.
That's what I heard.
They lost their sponsorship then?
Visa Cash App is cashing out. I don't know what's going on there.
Yeah.
I did notice Santander announced today their new partnership with Williams.
Oh.
So bye-bye Ferrari.
Oddly enough. Yeah.
Get rid of Carlos. We're out of here, man.
Yeah.
No more banking for you. Yeah.
So Racing Bulls, huh?
That's
not V-Carb. That's such a great idea. I don't know why they don't just keep pushing on with that. It sounded great at the beginning, and it's just as great now.
Yeah, somebody had to come up with that name.
Yeah.
That's embarrassing. And speaking of embarrassing, you had Sauber, you had Valtteri Bottas down in DNF territory. You had Zhou Guanyu in P13. If Valtteri was looking for a grand departure from F1, he did it in anti-hero sort of way, punting Perez early on, which garnered a 10-second penalty. Then he got back on track and punted Kevin into a spin, damaging his front suspension, front right wheel, limped his way back to the garage, ended his race, and sadly probably ended his Formula One career.
Yeah, pretty messy.
Well,
very cumbersome. After a great qualifying too, and obviously he got shook down pretty quick at the beginning of the race, and all that qualifying effort went for nothing. And then he just started punting people out. Oddly enough, no one told Valtteri that isn't the actual way to get a ride in Formula One, is by taking out the competition. It doesn't work that way. It
doesn't work. Isn't it a shame when you think about him beating Lewis and winning races?
Yeah.
At Mercedes to this.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's
so tough.
Everything has its time, right? Like Ricciardo had his time. Bottas, had his time. He when he was at his height, he was really good, and he had the right car underneath him when he was that. But I think he got distracted by trying to, I don't know if it's trying to be something or be himself, or I'm not sure, but I think the team obviously weren't performing, so he distracted on being goofy Valtteri, which is fun to watch the videos, but I'm just not sure that's really going to engage a lot of Formula One teams to want you. I don't
know. He's watching his life just turn into a Wes Anderson movie. It's surreal.
Yeah.
It's strange.
Yeah. It is. It did turn kind of strange, but he has. I still think he could be a very good driver, but probably not at the Formula One level at this point.
Yeah. Contrary to that, you got a young man from China. Joe was much racier, had a few good battles on track. Just bottom line, didn't have the pace to climb in the points or anything like that, like he did last week, unfortunately. Sad to see both of them go, and sad to see Joe go. I think he's done as much as he can in that car. I just think it's been a real greased pig this year, and it's difficult for him to show anything. But he did last week. He got in the points.
Let's hope that this was a throwaway season for this team, and they really can come back more focused with a more competitive car for the drivers they're bringing in. So
they got to. Jonathan Wheatley coming on board. Mattia Binotto. I think this team will turn around. I don't know how much next year, but by the time it's a full out deal, it should. All right, let's do some awards. We usually do awards at this time of the podcast. The first award we typically do is Move of the Race.
Seriously, Todd.
Yes. All right, Paul, what'd you have Move of the Race?
I've got to give it to Chuck. I mean, as I said, for the first lap, but also just his tenacity and some of those moves he made to still. I mean, he got 8th place or something on the first lap, but he still got another 5 places over and above that. And I just think some of those moves were, balls out, just it's going to happen now and you're going to get out of my way. And I liked it. Liked it a lot.
Great. I had Charles too. I think that opening lap was terrific. Just a great effort, because Carlos was always going to be going after Lando. With Charles back in what was he, 19? I know he was gutted that's where he started. I know the team felt bad. They weren't planning on it. But to come all the way back and finish nose to tail with Carlos, I mean, to maximize that effort, to just hope something happened with Lando and to have the cars, it was a fantastic performance.
Yeah, it was. It was.
He like you said, if he drives like that next year, Lewis will have his hands full.
Yeah, no doubt. And he's got the true... He bleeds red for sure.
Yes, he does.
Charles.
Yeah, he does. Let's see. Next award is Donkey of the Race.
We'll do it live.
Yes. Who'd you have?
I'm giving it to Sergio. I know.
You like my face? You like it?
As I said, I know it wasn't all his fault, but you got to figure it out. You got to qualify better. You got to figure a way of not being involved in the first lap incident and actually achieving something. And he's just not been able to do that.
Do you have to figure a way out not to burn your clutch out, Paul?
Yeah, also that. Learned your lesson from the previous week. Right. Just, I mean, I think his head's just not in a very bad place for getting anything out of that car. And that was another option that he probably did blow that clutch up by doing his little wheel spin right after a start where it's already hot and just threw it over the edge.
Yeah, agreed. I had Valtteri. That was such
that second one on Kevin was so bad. So bad. Yeah. And there's so many ways to, I mean, obviously I teach a lot of racing and just general driving is once the tire's locked, it will no longer turn. And Valtteri just didn't release the brake. He just decided, well, I guess I'm just going in deep. And Kevin, unfortunately, was the one that came a cropper on it. So I think even once the tire's locked up, Valtteri had an option to try and free up that wheel and get the car to actually change direction. He just didn't do it.
He just kind of jammed on the brakes and rode it in.
Yeah, this is looking bad.
Hands off the wheel. Yes, that was bad. And then finally, we have Drive the Race.
It's in Lewis.
Get down.
Yes. Who'd you have?
I got Chuck. I thought Lewis did an amazing job too. But I think Charles was he threw everything in the kitchen sink at this race. And he was awesome out there. Fun to watch.
Yeah, he was. I had Charles, but I could easily give it to Pierre or Lando. I think all three of them had a fantastic race. Lando, tremendous amount of pressure on his shoulders. Perfect drive, managed the whole race. Just incredible. Yeah. Pierre, ditto. A tremendous amount of weight on his shoulders because no one was expecting anything out of Jack. for his first race. Unfortunately, Lando was put in that position, but they would have felt that Oscar would have been in the points too.
Mm-hmm.
But either way, both those guys carried the whole team on their shoulders and delivered just a superlative performance. But Charles, I agree. It's fantastic. All right. Shall we do a mailbag?
You've got mail.
All right. Chuck says this, Paul. This is about
Chuck.
last week.
Okay.
Chuck is asking you this. Why did Valtteri move over on the straight when he hit the mirror? I would assume his race engineer would have told him about the mirror. I don't think he was passing anyone. Was he making way for a car to pass him?
Yeah, I think he was getting lapped, right? I think he was trying to get out the way and probably forgotten about the mirror. I think it was like 3 laps into the mirror that he ran into it, that the mirror was sitting there. So probably got warnings, about the mirror, but maybe, communication from the team isn't going to say, mirror's still there. It could slip through the cracks, and Valtteri didn't see it. There was a rise in that part of the track also, probably made it hard to see.
Yeah. I think he wanted to punt it like he did Kevin Magnussen.
Yeah.
Hey, Valtteri, there's a mirror on the front. We don't want a safety car. Could you just run over that damn thing and knock it off the track? That was their way of getting the debris off the track.
Yeah.
So, there you go. No, I just.
Valtteri's the boy for the job.
Yes.
Get that kid who shows his butt on the calendar. He'll do it.
That's right. Yeah, exactly. All right. Well, we made it, Paul. 24 races.
I'm exhausted.
Yeah, me too. I'm out of breath.
Yeah, it's like half a day of my life if I wanted to replay just the 30-second replays.
I know.
It's exhausting.
24 races later, we made it to the end of the season. And what a season it was. What I can try to do is maybe you and Grace and I could gear up in the off season to do a little season review. That might be kind of fun.
That seems appropriate.
Just to get Grace's input on her team McLaren winning.
Always entertaining. I know she's entertaining. I know she's a bit gutted that I beat her in the final fantasy standings.
I sunk like a stone.
Yeah. You didn't help much, but the Parc Fermé top 3 in the world. Top in 3. Fantasy as a league. So well done, everybody.
We were on the podium.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's top 3. Yeah.
If it wasn't for that Jenny Gao, we would have been second.
I know, Jenny. Always an overachiever, that Jenny.
Yeah, she is.
Anyway, all right. Well, that does it for this podcast, but we will be back. I'll try to get Grace, and we'll get all of her glowing praise about McLaren next week and the championship. So we will be back next week to do it all over again. Paul, thank you so much for all the race reviews this year.
Yeah, I think I made them. Did I make them all?
I think maybe you did.
Because I think originally I didn't think I could, but we somehow figured a way.
My dog's going to be the soundtrack for this podcast. Sorry about that. Yeah, you made it. You didn't think you would, but I think maybe you cared just enough about us to squeeze us in.
Maybe.
Maybe. Yes. So we are much the wiser and much the richer for it. I might add. So anyway, all right. I will scare up Grace. We'll come back next week, do it all over again. Then maybe we'll try to rope Paul into some fun podcasts in the off season. Because Paul, he doesn't mind reviewing races. He likes it, and he doesn't like talking politics in the paddock. No. But he does like a good fun podcast. We've talked about the wine and cheese episode. We've talked about other podcasts. So we'll have to think of some fun stuff to do in the off season to pull. We want to lure Paul back into the podcasting realm. So we'll work on that. Until that time, next week, this is Todd, a.k.a. Negative Camper, saying so long.
That's it, man. Game over, man. It's game over.
I feel I've got to prove it all. I don't really want to prove anything. I started as an amateur with no idea or no intention of becoming world champion. I was curious to find out what it